In the dim recesses of a forsaken laboratory, the air crackled with tension as the walls trembled violently, sending a shiver through the heart of the facility. Black mold, alive and ominous, crept across the metal surfaces like veins in a dying creature. Lights flickered above, casting eerie shadows that danced across the room. Rose, a young woman with determined eyes, suddenly clutched her head, the whispers enveloping her mind like a harrowing chorus. Not just one, but hundreds of voices echoed within her, fragments of memories resurrecting in the stale air. With a soft, trembling voice, she murmured, "They're waking up." Ethan, a man bearing the scars of countless battles, closed his eyes, feeling the mold react to his presence. "It's not just the root anymore," he whispered, a sense of foreboding washing over him. Chris, a stalwart observer, watched the two of them, his mind racing as realization dawned. "The people it absorbed," he said, the implications weighing heavily on them. Deep below in the root chamber, Perko and Mia stood surrounded by the pulsating mass of the root, a grotesque organism that throbbed like a living heart. Tendrils of black mold snaked across the chamber, alive and expanding. Mia's face paled as she observed the roots. "It's spreading again," she stated, fear creeping into her voice. Perko, bewildered, replied, "But the megamycete is gone." With a grim shake of her head, Mia replied, "No, it's rebuilding." As Mia studied the root network, a chilling realization struck her. She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. "It's connected to her," she whispered, glancing at Perko, who frowned in confusion. "Connected to who?" he asked. "Rose," Mia answered quietly. In that moment of revelation, silence filled the chamber, the weight of their discoveries settling between them. Mia took a deep breath, the gravity of her next words causing her stomach to twist. "As long as she lives, the root survives." Perko's eyes widened, a visceral denial escaping his lips. "No." But Mia held his gaze, steely determination flickering in her eyes. "I'm serious. She's the last host." The truth hung between them, heavy and unyielding. With a resolute stride, Mia moved toward the center of the chamber, her heart pounding as she activated explosive charges along the walls. Perko's eyes widened in horror. "What are you doing?" he shouted. Without turning, Mia responded, "I'll stay down here." Perko's disbelief was palpable. "This place will collapse," but Mia nodded, resolute. "I know, but it won't die until Rose does." Perko lowered his head, the truth settling in his heart like a stone. Back in the laboratory above, Chris moved through the shadowy corridors, his pistol gripped tightly, the cold metal biting into his palm. He was searching, hunting for Rose. Behind him, Ethan struggled to keep pace, the mold spreading further across his skin, the battle for his humanity growing more desperate. Ethan leaned heavily against a wall, his breath ragged as he battled the encroaching darkness. "I can't hold it much longer," he whispered to himself, feeling the root's dark tendrils reacting with a sinister awareness. Perko dashed through the corridors, his footsteps echoing into the abyss as he shouted, "Rose!" But the silence mocked him. In a vast, empty laboratory hall, Rose stood alone, utterly still. The whispers surrounded her, growing louder, clearer. She closed her eyes, connecting to every voice, every memory entwined with the mold. "So this is why," she breathed, understanding dawning upon her. Chris entered the room cautiously, stopping several meters away from her. When their eyes met, an unspoken truth passed between them. "You figured it out," Rose said, her tone resigned, yet at peace with the reality. As Chris raised his pistol, trembling in his grasp, his heart shattered at the thought of what he must do. His voice cracked as he uttered, "I'm sorry." Rose nodded, a gentle acceptance in her gaze. "I know." Suddenly, the wall erupted in a burst of black mold as Ethan emerged, a haunting figure, half human and half mold. He gasped, the weight of inevitability hanging in the air. Chris's jaw clenched. "You can't stop this," he warned. Ethan merely nodded, forlorn acceptance in his gaze. In that fateful moment, Chris's finger tightened on the trigger. But at the last second, Perko rushed in front of him. The shot rang out, echoing through the sterile lab, as Perko collapsed to the ground, a haunting silence enveloping the room. Rose screamed, the sound raw and anguished, as Chris stood frozen in shock, realizing he had never meant to hit him. As Perko lay on the cold floor, his breath shallow, he turned his gaze to Rose. "I'm sorry, I couldn't tell you," he whispered, the truth dawning upon Rose. "You knew," she gasped, understanding washing over her like a tide. Perko nodded slowly, the weight of his secret now unveiled. Ethan, now on one knee, felt his body beginning to crumble, the mold dissipating as the roots started to die. "It's time," he said softly, looking at Rose one last time. Rising with renewed resolve, Rose turned to Chris and Ethan, her voice calm yet powerful. "It has to end." At her words, the whispers ceased, a profound silence enveloping them. As the root began to collapse deep underground, writhing violently as it succumbed to death. Back in the laboratory, the mold on the walls turned gray and crumbled away, Ethan smiling faintly at Rose as he faded into nothingness. Morning fog drifted through the forest, casting an ethereal glow over 3 graves standing side by side. Ethan Winters, Perko, and Rose Winters. Chris and Mia stood before them, the weight of loss heavy in their hearts. The wind whispered through the trees, a gentle reminder of the lives they had saved. "They saved everyone," Mia said softly, her voice trembling. Chris, gazing at the graves, replied, "They shouldn't have had to." Kneeling at Ethan's grave, Mia traced her fingers over the cold stone. "Ethan always said he'd do anything for his family. I guess he meant the whole world." Chris let out a slow breath, honoring the sacrifices made. "She was stronger than all of us," he murmured, laying a small BSAA badge at Perko's grave. After a contemplative silence, Mia finally asked, "Do you think it's finally over?" Chris turned toward the distant forest, the sun breaking through the fog. "I hope so," he replied, then added quietly, "But if it isn't, they already showed us what it means to fight." Together, they stood in solemn silence before turning away, the camera lingering on the graves as the wind continued to rustle the leaves, a haunting melody of life and sacrifice. The world will never know their names. No statues will be built. No history books will tell their story. But somewhere in the quiet forests, 3 graves remind us of the truth. That the world was saved, not by armies, not by governments, but by people who refused to give up. And sometimes, that is enough.